That movie nut here with a review for Dracula, Dead and Loving It, the 1996 Mel Brooks spoof starring Leslie Nielsen, Amy Yasbeck, and Harvey Korman. The film serves as a parody of Dracula films, though mainly the Universal ones from the 1930s, specifically the original starring Bela Lugosi. The plot is pretty much the same as the original, involving a clerk called Renfield going over to Dracula's castle to secure a deal he made for some property. However, Dracula ends up driving Renfield mad and journeys to England himself on a ship. And then, of course, the usual happens. Lucy gets bitten and becomes a vampire, Mina gets cursed, and Van Helsing is called in to try and help solve the problem. And from there, slapstick ensues. The performances all round are passable, with the obvious highlights being Leslie Nielsen and Mel Brooks as Dracula and Van Helsing respectively, as well as Harvey Korman as Dr. Sue at the head of the asylum that Renfield is imprisoned in. These three are the highlight of the film, with Leslie Nielsen doing a great impression of Bela Lugosi, and though he doesn't have the powerful stare, he still manages to pull off a great tribute to the actor. And Mel Brooks' Van Helsing is very much a combination of many versions, and he's following in the footsteps in some ways of Anthony Hopkins' version from Bram Stoker's Dracula, being a little more aloof and crazy, though here it's more exaggerated, and Harvey Korman does the best as he can as the somewhat skeptical doctor. However, the rest of the cast is nothing to write home about. They all play their roles well, playing the parts of Jonathan, Harker, Renfield, Lucy, Mina, the characters you expect, but none of the actors really stand out. They know they're in a parody, and they don't really seem to do more than just caricature previous versions. Again, specifically focusing on the Universal and Bram Stoker's Dracula. The only notable actor I can think of out of the bunch besides the big three is Amy Yasbeck as Mina, who does look pretty and she pulls off a decent performance, but much like her co-star, she doesn't exactly get the best material to work with. Visually, the film is passable. Originally, Mel Brooks wanted this to be filmed in black and white, however, the studio decided against it, and as such, the look is clearly now more inspired by the Hammer films from the 50s, which were in color, as evidenced by a couple of gags revolving around blood. However, this hurts the film since obviously a lot of the jokes and ideas were obviously more directed at the black and white 1930s version, and it just doesn't gel as well here, and it often feels a bit off the beat trying to mix the bloodier Hammer with the more calm, subtle Universal style. And the music score isn't much better. Unfortunately, John Morris, Mel Brooks' famous composer who did the music for Spaceballs, Blazing Saddles, and Young Frankenstein, does not do the music here. And even though the music by Hummy Man is passable and does its job taking the mick out of previous Dracula soundtracks, it doesn't stand out at all, nor does it have any memorable catchy tunes like Blazing Saddles or pretty much any other work by John Morris for Mel Brooks. And now we come to the final and most important thing, the script, and of course the jokes. Unfortunately, much as I hate to say it, this is the weakest Mel Brooks film. It's undeniably better than anything Freeberg and Seltzer have put out, but that's not much praise. The jokes here are incredibly juvenile, and they don't have any of the either subtlety or the overt brashness that Mel has become known for. Nothing here is as good as it should be. Everything feels like something you'd see in Comedy 101, whether it's Dracula banging his head, or smashing into a window, or Lucy showing off her breasts. All of it just comes off as really silly, and just not what I'm expecting from Mel Brooks. Bear in mind, Mel Brooks is the same man who gave us such great things as the farting scene in Blazing Saddles, and the Walk This Way gag in Young Frankenstein. In fact, Young Frankenstein is a great comparison, because there, Mel was able to fully reproduce the kind of films he was parodying with the black and white style. Here, unfortunately, because he wasn't able to do that, it hurts the film, because, as I stated earlier, the color, which was obviously more influenced by Hammer, jars with the obvious references and pastiches to the 1930s version. and it never fully works. Everyone, the big three, Nielsen, Korman, and Brooks, obviously try to do the best they can, but there just isn't anything worthwhile to work with here. The jokes just aren't funny enough. They aren't what they should be. They don't feel like they meld naturally. The great thing about Mel Brooks is that even as parodies, his films still told competent stories that would easily fit into a straight film of that genre. You could take Blazing Saddles plot and put it in a straightforward story of a western. You could take Young Frankenstein and make that another Frankenstein sequel. Hell, it was pretty much a unofficial sequel to Son of Frankenstein. But here, nothing just fits. It doesn't feel natural. Anytime Nielsen gets to do something, it's often something incredibly stupid, like, as I said, flying into a window when he turns into a bat, or doing some incredibly stupid thing with hypnosis where women end up banging into each other. It's not clever, and it's just not very Mel Brooksian. There's nothing here that made me laugh out loud. There just isn't enough here, and it's such a shame that Leslie got wasted on a film like this, because as I said, he does do a good impression of Lugosi, and had this film gone the 8th mile and been allowed to fully emulate it, it would have probably been a lot better, but because of the studio's interference, it just ended up feeling very flat. And so I must give Dracula Dead and Loving It a plastic star. There is just very little redeemable at this film. As I said, it's better than anything that Seltzerberg produced, but that's very faint praise. The film just doesn't work. The jokes aren't funny, the acting is below average, and the production values clash with the obvious tone that the film is trying to set.